Okay, it is 6:30. Okay, item 3, any changes or additions to the agenda? Item 4, consent agenda.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5, personnel. Acknowledge retirement, Maryland Strange, Superintendent Secretary, ended June 2015.
I move the board acknowledge the retirement of Marilyn Strange, Superintendent Secretary, end of June 2015. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge the retirement of Marilyn Strange, Superintendent Secretary, end of June 2015. Any discussion?
Well, I personally would just like to say a few things. Marilyn is, even though worked tirelessly, I think everybody knows that, for years for this district and for the kids. And, I know that everybody needs to retire at some point, right? I personally hate to see it happen, but I'm happy for her. I'm looking forward to retiring myself someday, hopefully, right?
That's a good thing.
But Marilyn, I just really appreciate everything you've done for this district, this community, and our kids. Thank you.
Superintendents have come and superintendents have gone. And Marilyn has always been there. She's been the glue that's held this district together throughout that sometimes trying transition. Very truly appreciate it. Well said. Anyone else?
I do have some comments I'd like to present, and I'm going to read them, Marilyn, because I want to get it right, and it's important for me to get it right. Marilyn, you are so deserving of all the accolades that you receive for your contribution to this school for so many years of dedicated service. For me, there is a particular arena which needs substantial acclamation. It's been 20 years since you asked me the question to do some surveying for the track and field project. 20 years ago. That evolved into a partnership that accomplished so much for kids, the school, and the community. None of those projects would have happened without your involvement. The organization of resources, which included coordination of volunteers from the Booster Club, students, the community, church groups, service organizations, the Army Reserve, and acquiring the use of local equipment and resources. Grant writing and fundraisers allowed those projects to be constructed without any taxpayer support. I don't think there's a lot of people that really realize that, Marilyn. And your ability to ask a simple question and then inspire others to work with you on a common goal. While I have never attempted to calculate the cost of those projects, if they had been put out for bid, my educated guess is it would approach $1 million. Your gift for having a vision, assembling the resources, and completing a task have benefited so many. And while you extended recognition to and awards for others, you remained in the background, quietly and politely, not wanting or needing any of the public limelight. Marilyn, for me, tonight is your night. I want you to know I'll always value and hold dear what you have meant to this school and community, and I'll never forget who facilitated so much good. I wish you a long and enjoyable retirement. You have definitely earned it. Thanks for all you've done.
Any more discussion?
I don't really want to follow that, but Marilyn, if you guys, some of you probably already know this, but she is a walking encyclopedia. I mean, she can tell you, we were just talking the other day, oh, what date was so-and-so hired? Oh, not only is it the year, it's the month, and pretty much down to the day. Today, and Brianna can attest to this, we were in the office, and I said, well, and if you don't know, our board policies are divided into, they're 2 books because they're too thick, but they're binders about that thick, and there's 6 sections. And they're labeled by series, the 1000s, the 2000s, the 3000s. And I said, Marilyn, what section, knowing that there's 1 of 6, but I don't know all looked up, so I just asked her. I said, what section is the superintendent evaluation piece? And, oh, that's policy 1630. So it's not just the section, it's the policy number, and she knows whether it's a policy and or procedure or just policy. I think you just go to the book, you flip to 1630, and odds are that's exactly the right section. And I think sometimes it's easy to kind of take that for granted, because she just grabs the book and hands me the page, and you know that. That's a lot of information and knowledge just on command. And so, we were teasing Rihanna today, you're going to have to know every one of these policies, what section they're in, and what they represent. As Marilyn does, Ron told y'all what. But, it sounds pretty simple, but that's a big value, and that's definitely going to be this.
Okay, all on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5B, acknowledge resignation of Crystal Williams, 3rd grade teacher, end of June 2015.
I move the board acknowledge the resignation of Crystal Lance, 3rd grade teacher, end of June 2015.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge the resignation of Crystal Williams, 3rd grade teacher, end of June 2015. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5C, acknowledge resignation of Lonnie Eaton, middle school football coach.
I move the board acknowledge the resignation of Lonnie Eaton, middle school football coach.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge the resignation of Lonnie Eaton, middle school football coach. Any discussion?
I just have a comment. I believe that Lonnie's been our middle school football coach for 15 years. And, a lot of times the middle school coaches just do not get the credit that they really deserve. But in football, it's a little different than, say, softball, baseball, basketball, because you don't get the kids until they're in middle school. And the job that he's done over the past 15 years, sure, we've had some pretty good athletes, but the job he's done has been huge in the success of our football program. And, I hate to see him. Maybe he's moving on to something else. I don't know, but, hopefully we got somebody that can fill the shoes. It's a great job, I think.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5D, acknowledge resignation of the farmer bus driver, end of June 2015.
I move the board acknowledge the resignation of Cliff Langer, bus driver, June 13, 2015.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge the resignation of Cliff Weimer, bus driver, end of June 2015. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make one more comment. A few years back, I was coaching, quite a few years back actually, with Lyle.
Ask Marilyn.
We'd gone to PL, and it was a nice ride to PL. We go in, we play the game, we come out, and there's literally 8 inches of snow on the ground. And, I'm a little apprehensive, right, because you're in a big old yellow bus, and, Cliff just navigated that ship home without a problem, just nice and easy, and just was really good to have somebody with, you know, that kind of experience calling us back home. So that's just one memory from quite a few years ago. So.
Well, Cliff and I came to the school district at the same time, fall of 1965.
Wow.
50 years. I was an 8th grade student and Cliff was the music teacher. And
Yes.
it just, when I read this title, Cliff Weimer Bus Driver, I just seem so inadequate for all the things that Cliff Weimer's done for this community. He's really, he and his wife Cable, they're just icons of this community.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings back another memory, actually. I'm in middle school, right? Choir. I'm not sure why. I was like one or the other. I was only an old boy. What? Anyway, so we're doing these tryouts for parks, and I can see clearly now. I can still remember what we were singing. And we go in there, and he plays a little bit, you know, and I'm trying to sing. He stops and says, you know, I'm not sure what happened. Your mother can sing awesome. I'm like, well, thank you. And he said, you can't carry 2 in a bucket. I'm a farmer. I wasn't sure what that meant exactly. It caught me off guard. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, really? Yeah. So he always had a way of kind of letting me move a little bit. Anyway, sorry.
That's just fun. Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5E, approve hire Marie Green, assistant volleyball coach for 15-16 season.
I move the board approve the hire of Marie Green, assistant volleyball coach for the 2015-16 season, league replacement.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Marie Green, assistant volleyball coach for the 15-16 season. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve the hire of Brianna Juco, superintendent secretary.
I move the board approve the hire of Leanna Jaco, superintendent secretary, July 2015.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Brianna Juco, superintendent secretary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Lisa, is Rihanna here?
She is.
Okay.
All right.
Hi.
She's practicing.
Okay.
Diana, everyone, you guys buy a
I just want to ask a question. You got some big shoes to fill.
I know.
You'll have our support.
I respect her a lot, and she's been a good teacher.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 5G, approve hire of Rachel Swamala, assistant cook.
I move the board approve the hire of Rachel Swamala, assistant coach, August 2015.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Rachel Swamala, assistant cook. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No one has signed up for public comment. Item 7, any unfinished business? None? Item 8, new business. Acknowledge out-of-area placement. Rita Souther, NYC teacher.
I move the board acknowledge the out-of-area endorsement of Rita Souther, youth camp teacher.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge out-of-area placement. Rita Souther, NYC teacher. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 8B, acknowledge receipt of College Board grant for 2 Mandarin teachers.
I move the board acknowledge the seat of the college board teachers for 2015 and 16.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to acknowledge receipt of college board grant for 2 Mandarin teachers. Any discussion?
I've got a comment. You know, we had quite a discussion last month. And everyone was given an opportunity to speak and express their views. And, you know, as a board member of now 10 years, it's customary when the board makes a decision that while the minority board member didn't necessarily get their way, they need to accept that. And that's the way I felt after that meeting, that it was settled and I need to move on. However, since then I've received a couple of emails. One of them basically saying that I needed to provide the Mandarin group with a solution to the problem. And I thought that was a bit odd, since I didn't support the program. So the same day I happened to get the board packet, and I was going through the board minutes, and I saw the section on the discussion of the request that I made for a letter regarding the funds, that we would have something in writing this meeting substantiating those funds were in fact available and will be provided to the school district. And so I responded to that first email reminding that individual of that, and that I have seen nothing to that effect, and if nothing comes forward, I'm voting no. And I got another response back that basically told me that the board should have acted in the board meeting, basically telling this board how we should have behaved. And that is basically going to drive my vote when we do vote. Now, that raises a question I have, Lisa. You and I talked about this last week. You indicated there was a possibility of a letter coming forward. Did we get a letter?
Yes. Pass it down. Everybody look at it.
Lisa, I've got a question about this letter. Now, what it's telling us, what it says, is their funds do not get spent until we spend ours.
Basically, yeah, we committed to
We're
25,000.
gonna spend the offsets, we're gonna spend the 25,000, and then their money's gonna be spent. That isn't the way it worked last year. I can't understand how it's working that way this year.
Well, we talked about it in October, getting the money in October, but the motion said district cap of 25,000. Now, the part that makes it a little, I guess, challenging or convoluted is the offsets. We don't know if 10 more people are coming or 5 more people are going. So the number's a little bit fluid because it's driven by the conversation around offsets, which has to do with people coming into the district or possibly leaving the program. So that's why they put a cap on there of 33, but, you know, we did also do acceptance.
We did that the previous year, but we only spent 12.
Right. But this year we have double the teachers, which is why we figured it's probably going to cost more this year.
That's all we got, John.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Name?
Abstain. I'll vote yes. Motion carries.
I'd like the record to show that I voted no.
Item 8C, recognize students for outstanding knowledgeable achievement.
If I have the knowledge bowl over there, there's some of them hiding back there. Two, that's okay. You can stay right there if you're more comfortable. They're gonna force us to go back. I will come to you. We have two, but you're two mighty people. We wanted to take this moment to acknowledge our Knowledge Bowl team for 2 years in a row. Well, for several years, they've been very competitive, but actually the last 2 years, they've gone to state and placed quite well. And it was, came down to the wire, basically. We probably would have had a trophy this big, but we like ours much better because this was handcrafted by Mr. Moten DeCamp. And so just kind of show everyone what it looks like. It has two little Knowledge Bowl lamps at the bottom. And there's one for each student, and it says, it's kind of wordy. I think class should be kind of wordy, because they're supposed to be kind of sophisticated. Yes. So it says, in recognition of your dedication, commitment, and scholarship, Kyler Wolf, you are presented this award for your participation in the Naselle Grays River Valley School District Knowledge Bowl program and your subsequent attainment of recognition at the state level. And it's 2014-15 because 2 years in a row they have repeated this feat. Without the efforts and coordination and practice. Justin was constantly getting us together to be, I guess I should say, the other way around, for us to provide a small challenge for the kids. They pretty much blew us out of the water. I think we might have officially won one round around the ICAP score. But other than that, really appreciate all you've done for this program, and we know it wouldn't have been possible without your efforts, and so we want you to have one of these.
Thank you.
The other students who are not here, we also have a plaque for Abigail Bennett. She's been on the team for several years as well, and I'll give this to Alan here in a second. And Amethyst Workalove is on the team. Again, these are all longstanding team members. Brittany Waltimate. Okay. And Chloe is not with us tonight, but she's visiting Yale this week, so one for Chloe Zimmerman as well. Okay, next we have the members of the senior class. So I'll load up this.
Yeah.
Item 8D, approve overnight trip for senior class.
It is an impromptu this time, I don't want to stop it. Okay. The senior class is asking for approval for our senior trip this year. It'll be June 1st through, June 3rd.
Wow. Sorry, technical difficulty. It is impromptu.
We're planning on leaving June 1st at around 7 a.m. And heading up to our hotel in Linwood. It's the Embassy Suites up there. Hopefully we'll arrive somewhere around 11, then head down to Seattle and eat lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. After that, spend a day in Seattle doing the Ferris wheel, going on a duck tour maybe, and just enjoying Pike's Place. Dinner, Benihana's was requested from the class, so we'll eat dinner at Benihana's and then return to our hotel that day. That's nice. And I like maps, so I made a map. I felt like this needed some pictures or something. So that's our map. That's how you get to Linwood and then Seattle, back to Linwood. June 2nd. We eat breakfast at the hotel, which is free, and the Embassy Suites has a great complimentary breakfast. We're planning on going to the Family Fun Center in Tupelo. It's called Bullwinkle's. A couple of the other senior classes have gone there. They've got bumper cars, mini golf, and a lot of fun. And then the girls wanted to go to the mall, so South Center Mall is right in that area. There's a movie theater in the mall, so if a group of kids wanted to go see a movie, we could do that. And again, the Olive Garden is right in that area, so we just hop on over to the Olive Garden, eat dinner, head back to the hotel. I made another map. So, yay! June 3rd, which would be our final day, we would leave the hotel, check out maybe around 12, eat breakfast there again. There's an ice skating rink in Kent, which I thought would be really fun if we could stop and do that. And then on the way down in Lacey, there's that Cabela's, and I figured since we went to the mall, we should probably go to Cabela's for the boys, so. I know we can. And yeah, that's true, we spent a lot of time at the mall. And then a lot of the kids in the class wanted to go to Red Robin too, so there's a Red Robin in Olympia. We can stop there for dinner, and then we'll be back home by 10, hopefully.
Fair enough.
There's a map. Oh, yeah. And that's how you get from Linwood back to Naselle. Yeah, there's the stops. MapQuest. It's a great thing. These are the approximate totals. We haven't actually sat down and gotten specific totals yet, but these are around the cost that it's going to be. We came to about $5,550. But we have about $7,500 in our account, so we have about $2,000 left over to disperse amongst the kids, depending on how many points they've earned through working at concessions and fundraisers, so they could fund food and maybe more tokens at Bullwinkle's or something. That's what we have.
Okay.
Any questions?
What's your mode of transportation?
Actually, that's the next slide, I think. There's some information.
sorry.
It's okay. Okay, our chaperones, down there, we'll start at the top. Chaperones, Mrs. Cincinnati and Mrs. Wolf, and along with Mr. Dalton and Mr. McCoskey. There are 10 girls and 9 boys going, so that's a total of 23 people. And we decided to take the 3 vans, just so there's more room and we'll all be comfortable. Any questions?
So those 3 vans, you're gonna have Naselle written on the side of them.
Yes.
Right. So you're representing not only yourselves, but this community and the school. So just bear that in mind when you're up there. People are watching.
And one of the bands is really going on. I mean, it pops.
Yeah.
Be careful when you let, what we call in Bubba, design things. Like mask, very good, but anyway.
Anything else?
Anybody else?
Enjoy your plan.
Easy.
Well, yeah. We've had groups who've had to really read them right.
overnight trip to Sisters for the 8th grade class.
A point of order, actually. We never actually made a motion. We didn't accept it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just went right into our maps. And
I guess it was my math.
we got all flustered by their wonderful maps. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's all right. She does such a dazzling job. She just dazzles the board.
So I guess we better back up and have a motion.
Sure.
Okay.
I move the board approve the overnight trip for the teacher.
I'll second.
It's been approved and seconded that we approve the overnight trip for the senior class. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion finally carries.
Yay.
I almost messed that one up. You think tomorrow you would have found out you couldn't have gone. Special school board meeting. Sorry.
8E, approve overnight trip to Sisters for the 8th grade class.
I don't have adjustments here, if there are questions, he has all the specifics and they're really.
You guys want any information?
I can,
Should we have a motion first?
Well, we should actually do the motion and.
Yeah.
I move the board approve the overnight trip for the 8th grade class to Sisters.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the overnight trip to Sisters for the 8th grade class. Is there any discussion?
You guys want a quick overview?
Yes.
All right, so do you guys know anything about CISPAS? It's a leadership training camp that's operated by the Association of Washington School Principals. It's located in Randall. It's a former U.S. Forest Service camp. And Wahkiakum Health and Human Services, Pacific County Health Department, and Wahkiakum Community Network offered to fund this opportunity for our 8th graders in conjunction with Wahkiakum 8th graders to go to CISPAS and participate for 3 days. They'll leave on a Thursday morning, return on a Saturday evening, and participate in a variety of activities that revolve around substance abuse prevention, personal skill building, group problem solving, and things of that nature. There's a low ropes challenge course there, so they'll do that for 3 days. Very well chaperoned, actually, Mr. Dalton, Mr. McNulty, a couple other parents. There are medical people there, Wahkiakum County Sheriff's deputies, so it's a neat opportunity. I won't be chaperoning this trip, but I've chaperoned them in the past, and it's well worth the time. And so, great activity for the kids as they head into high school. So yeah, and it's free. So
How many children in the 8th grade class?
in this year's 8th grade class, I think we're about 23 or 24. Actually, we've had some recent influx of kids, so yeah, it's 23 or 24.
How many schools is
Just us and Wahkiakum, so they'll
Oh, just-
bring in about 35 kids, so there could be 60. That's another nice kind of element of this, is the kids get a chance to, interact with kids from Cathlamet as well as some of the staff from there as well. So yeah.
All right. Any other discussion?
Thanks.
So, yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the overnight trip to Sisters for the 8th grade class. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9A, Naselle Youth Camp members for 2015-16.
Okay. Well, our funding number, we get a letter every April 15th, and so that determines what our kind of the floor for funding will be on the upcoming school year. Last year, our number was 76. We haven't been anywhere near that this year. In fact, we kind of little down. We were down like really getting scared. They were like 59 or some crazy thing. Today we're 70. So, I was pretty confident it wasn't going to be 76 when they haven't had that many in there. That'd be kind of foolish to pay for 76 when you're only getting 70 cert or less. And so the camp superintendent had thought, well, the rationale behind the number 70 is why give a number that you can't support? It should be a reasonable number that you can actually supply the kids to support that number if you're going to pay for them. And so we thought 68, they batted it around. The assistant secretary for BSHS, named John Clayton, he actually called me and we talked the 15th. before they announced the numbers, and he wanted to be clear of a couple things. He wanted us to understand that, they wanted to support Naselle to as much as they could, but there were statewide cuts all across the SHA as that they had to meet. We would be reduced, but it would be at a lesser percentage rate than the other institutions were cut. And so we did lose 6 students. I mean, it was 76 last year. This year we're funded at 70. Green Hill, I had the teachers out from I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyway, Tim Toohey, the principal from Green Hill, they lost 13, he told me today, so their funding got cut 13. So there's big cuts. They closed the boot camp in Connell. So there's a lot of cuts that they're having to accomplish. It's a two-edged sword, when they finally decide to get around to funding public education. Well, it's out of the state budget, so they have to do it from something. So you got to make cuts in all the other departments. And so anyway, our number, long story short, is 70 for next year. I actually feel better about having a number that they're going to commit to funding that's reasonable, because what happens if they say it's going to be 76 and it's an average of 70, we end up duking it out at the end of the year and saying, hey, you told us it was going to be 76. I hired for this many people, and we have to invoice them, and we end up in kind of this, squabble at the end of the year over that money. And if they actually say a lower number and they give us that number, at least we get what we were funded for. So, I'd rather have a lower number and actually have those kids. And that's what I anticipate happening next year with the closure at Connell. And when I talked to the assistant secretary about is let's get some kids in Naselle that have longer sentences that can get on DNR kids and be like peer leaders. Because a lot of times it's just been a revolving door. It's just been kids in and out of there. It's crazy. There's too many the short sentences and the kids are just coming and going. And the amount of paperwork that it puts on us to have a kid there for a couple weeks and on, it's just crazy. So I said, well, how about some of these kids that are sitting on 2 or 3 year sentences that have no light at the end of their tunnel? Let's get them in a DNR crew where they can, all of a sudden they have something legitimate that they're doing in life. They're out there working hard, they're making more money. They can be a peer leader for some of these other kids that, haven't had a lot of good leadership in their life. And some of those kids can do that, even if we get just 1 or 2 on a crew, on DNR. I think it would make them so. That was kind of my lobbying with him. I think it was some of those kind of kids. A lot of those kids are sitting at Green Hill, and they don't need that level of security, and they do perfectly fine, and they sell in their own policies. I like to remind the state that those kids should be in a least restrictive environment. They shouldn't need a more maximum security environment than they require. If they can handle a lower level of security, they should be at a lower level of security. For their own growth, you don't need to be in some lockdown state if you don't need it. So those conversations are ongoing, but anyway, so that number's 70 for next year. Special education numbers have been a higher percentage than we've ever had. We actually hit 44% last week of our student population being special ed. That's a lot. That's a lot for us, for any percentage. Green Hill's similar. They're in the mid-30s, so they're pretty high too. One of the good things we've been doing, and the Green Hill teachers, there were 6 teachers that came today, and they toured Naselle, and they visited teachers' classrooms. And we were there last Friday, so we kind of take turns doing this. It was our Friday work. They were the teachers who normally worked in the classroom, and we just went up to Green Hill. And what we do is we visit their classrooms and see what they do. They have a little different kind of kid than we do with a more maximum security, but there's still things that teachers do. I know when as an administrator and I go in classrooms, there's times that you think, oh, I wish I'd have been able to, see that when I was teaching. I could have really used that, And a lot of times you don't really get to see the craft of teaching until you get into administration, and then you go in and you see what other teachers are doing, because teachers live in these isolated, they really are pretty isolated in their jobs. And so this gives them a chance. They go in, they visit a classroom. It's not a judgmental thing. It's just like, what do you see? What's going on? And like student engagement, and the kind of questions the teacher asks. It's more about observing what you see, and then they come back and talk about it. And so their teachers did that with us today, and we've just done that. And they've got a lot of good, you learn a lot from your peers. So that's kind of something that really doesn't cost anything other than, fuel to run up there back and forth. So it's kind of one of those pretty low-hanging fruit on becoming better at what you do. It doesn't really cost a lot. And lastly, we have the UNJAM 2.0. We had a grant that Kathleen Sandy, she's in charge of the JRA schools from OSPI. They actually, it's OSPI that funds us just like they fund the public school, but they fund the schools and institutions. And so one of the things across the country they're concerned about is the quality of education in most of the incarceration facilities isn't very good for you. Ours is way better than the norm throughout the country. I mean, there's no comparison. It's really bad. I've done some research. If you like that, I'm reading a book on it right now. It's really bad. But then the area, as far as what makes it even worse is their access to technology is so bad. A lot of times if these kids have been locked up for anything, the time they get out, it's like another planet, with Facebook and everything. So their skills, they're way behind in technology. We actually have a lot of technological resources, computers, iPads, document scanners, we've got video projectors. We have a lot of tools and even smart boards and things, but what we don't always have is sometimes teachers don't get the training to use the tools they have. It'd be like the guy you visit his workshop, and it's like, dang, you got a lot of tools. What have we made with that? Not much. It's like sometimes you have the tools, but you need help utilizing those tools. So there's a grant that was actually applied for on our behalf, as well as Echo Glen and Green Hill, and that's what it does. It takes 5 days of a national conference where you go and get training on how to use the tools and technology to be more effective in the school. And that's not something we could ever afford to do, but as part of the grant, it pays for all that for us. So it'll send teacher, tech guy, tech person, guy at our school, and one teacher, so principal, teacher, and the tech person, all expenses paid to go to this conference for 5 days in Austin, Texas in the summer. It's a big deal. And the other institutions too, you add that up across the state, it's a lot of money they're investing in this, and it's part of this grant. So it's pretty good news that we get that, free to us, not free, but it's part of the grant. So that's kind of what's going on at camp.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you're funded for 70 students and you actually ended up averaging, say, 74.
Then you get paid for 74, and that's why it's actually better, I think, because I think it's more realistic. I mean, just looking across JRA, I think they could do 70. If we got 76, a pie in the sky number, we might think that's good news, but it isn't good news if you don't get it. So yeah, if it's more, you get it. If it's less, you squabble. So I'd rather have a sustainable number, and then maybe we'll get more, especially with the closure right now.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah.
Are there less kids? Why?
It's system-wide, yeah.
I mean,
Although what I am seeing is, and I'll keep it short, but there's a natural system in place, I think. There's a little human nature comes in here, because if you're a kid at Naselle and you're getting in fights all the time and you're threatening staff, you're going to get bumped at Green Hill. I mean, you need more security than what you're getting at Naselle. But if you're a kid at Green Hill and you're not bothering anybody and you're working hard in your classes and it's all good, you're just kind of chilling in your room and what's the driver? And that's the conversation I had with Mr. Clayton. Okay, we've got a natural system in place to kick it up to more security, but what's going on that's going to look at who's not having problems and step them down to lower security? It kind of is counter. You've got to have some systems in place to drive that, and that's what I think is missing. And that's why I think, this last year at one point, Green Hill had 20 over their funded number, and we were sitting way under our funded number. And that, to me, the key of it is there's nothing really driving that. If you're there and you got a kid that's all good, you don't want to lose those kids, right? So it's just human nature. They need to develop some systems that are going to kick those kids down to us. And it's really by their own policies they're required to. It's just a weak spot, I think.
Do you see any reason why we have so many more special needs children?
I think it has to do with their shortening sentences, and the only kids that actually end up doing time are the ones that have severe problems, and so across the system you're getting a higher percentage of special needs kids.
So there's not less, they're just cutting the sentence.
I think they're just a higher percentage of the kids that we're serving. The other kids are getting out on shorter sentences. I mean, sometimes there's a lack of understanding of the crime even that they committed when you're a special needs kid, so they end up with longer sentences. We're doing a good job with them. I wouldn't say for a minute we're not. It's just an extra burden. And it's across the system.
where are the kids going? I mean, because they've cut facilities over the last few years.
They're actually getting,
And it's hard to believe that there's maybe less, I guess there could be less crime, I suppose, correct?
they would claim that there's less crime.
Who's they?
I'm JRA, yeah, DSHS, yeah.
Because at one point, I know that county facilities and things like that were kind of hanging on to these kids.
Right.
So is that still kind of happening?
It is a
or-
problem. There's a couple factors. I mean, one, the sentences are shorter.
I see.
They're getting out on 60% of their minimum instead of their minimum. So the legislators figure a way to solve the problem is instead of having kids serve their sentence, usually there's a minimum range and a maximum range of your sentence. So if you get a year, your minimum, if you get a year to 2 years, in my world, that means you're in for at least a year, right? I mean, logic. But that's not what it is. And the system is like, okay, then you can get out on 60% of your minimum. Well, then you're eligible to go to a group home. So it ends up, they're not really serving their full time. They go to a group home quicker and they get out quicker. At least that's my understanding. And it's supposedly to save money, but if you don't get the kid remediated as a juvenile, society does not really save money in the long run. It costs us.
Is it more cost effective for the state for a kid to go to, say, a group home versus a facility like the youth camp?
The conversation that I overheard that Tyson with that at the last quarterly meeting when there was a group home teacher, spoke to the JRA administration, and I overheard him say, you know, you're sending us these kids too soon. They're not ready. They're reoffended as soon as they get out. And the response was, well, we didn't realize that was the problem. We thought that was saving money. He goes, well, it's not really saving any money because they're going out and reoffending and then we just start all over again. So, I mean, if you look at it on a case-by-case basis, it looks like you're saving money because you say you got that kid out sooner. But if you look at it systemically, it's costing us money because, you know, it's just the overall number of kids and crime. If you look at the number of crimes, it's
So the process for a kid to get to the camp, do they go through a county facility or something first that they get sort of hung in?
they get held up at county
And then part
sometimes.
of that time is their sentence too? Is that why some of the terms are so
I'm
short?
learning about all that too, but what I understand is they're spending a lot of time at county detention because they get the money from it. And
Right.
they're not getting to us in a very timely manner. I had a conversation with 3 youth. You're asking an interesting question. I'm not maybe doing
No, they probably heard it before from me.
Well, yeah. The conversation I heard with 3 youth today, so I'm observing Mr. Bowen's class. Great job in crafts. That was really cool to see these kids are making masks. So I'm just asking them, so help me understand. I said, I'm the principal. I want to know how we're doing on education here. I mean, how does the education you're getting in Naselle Youth Camp compare to when you were in county detention or the juvenile? And all 3 of them said, there's no comparison. I wasn't getting anything in juvenile, or I just got packets, or, you know, every one of them, it was just clear they were either getting little to no education in county, and I asked, well, how long was that? One, it was 2 months, another, it was, 30 days, and so, you got a month or 2 just gone, and they're getting the funding for that kid, but at least from the kid's perspective, they weren't really learning anything during that time, and I hear that's kind of a repeated theme, and I think it's a problem, and, the counties, everybody has their little, coffer they want to fill, but not at the expense of kids.
Well, I mean, isn't it, it seems to me that, our youth camp is better set up to provide the things that these kids need.
Right.
Versus, and correct me if I'm wrong, versus, a group home. I just don't see how they can provide the opportunities that the camp can, and I'm sure Lisa can speak to that too, but how do we get, sort of this pushed across to, the people in power positions that these kids need to get into facilities such as youth camp? Because it seems to me that it's better served for these kids to get there rather than, and is there any avenues that we have as a board or, to sort of push that process, or is it just sort of like talking to the wall?
Well, I think if we're part of a democracy, you always need to talk to legislators. I mean, if everybody just decides there's no point, then nothing will ever change. enough people start making noise, eventually things change in democracy, but, you're asking good questions. Now, one thing that's gonna help us, I think, on that number is most of the group homes are full. A year ago, they weren't, they had a really, and so we're to the point now, okay, you're not gonna get any more in there, because these kids are waiting 3-4 months to even get a bed, they can't even leave for 3 or 4 months. So we're kind of at that point, where, when the tide finally hit, and you start seeing the water back up on the bank, we're kind of at that point, I think, on our numbers where, okay, the group homes are full. I mean, if they come out of county, there's nowhere else to go, they gotta go to an institution. So I think that'll backfill. But as far as who to talk to, I think we need to talk to legislators about, and ask them to, hey, let's get some studies on how much time are kids in school when they're in a group home. What I'd like to see some research on is, okay, we've called kids after they've been in a group home a month and they're still not in school. What the heck, we need to figure out, okay, how many days go by out of 100 school days for a youth, how many are in school if they're in a group home, and how many are in school if they're in, what kind of education if they're getting, are they getting if they're sitting in a juvie or county? It's not all bad, sure they vary county by county. But I can tell you one thing, if they come in and they say youth camp, they're in school.
Right.
They're starting, the day they arrive, they're starting orientation. It's the same with Echo, and it's the same with Greenhill.
And the reason I ask these questions is because in the time that I've been on the board, which is in 2 different stints, I can remember, and Lisa probably can correct me on this, and maybe Steve even too, because you've been on the board, just as long, if not longer. But, I can remember when I was first on the board, and I'll bet Marilyn can probably contest this too. It seems like we were like 100 kids or more, and then, then we were like 96, okay, that's still pretty good with budget for that. And then we're 80, and now we're talking about 70.
Right.
And so at what point, this camp's pretty important to this community. And so, and not just us, it's important to the kids that we serve too. But at what point are they just gonna say, well, you only got 50 kids there, so,
Well, I can tell you, we're funded with biennium, so 2 years. And that question was asked to Secretary Quigley, who was in the camp last Friday. And that's the day we were up at Greenhill. But I know one of the staff pinned him down and said, okay, you got a lot of cuts to make in the state budget. What kind of conversations happened around it themselves? Was the discussion of closure ever happening? And Secretary Quigley told him directly, there was never, in all of our conversations about how to save money because of this McCleary Act and all the state budget stuff going on. Closing Naselle wasn't even in the conversation. So, and you're always just 2 years at a time, so it's always like 2 years, but for 2 years, that's not an issue. I really think what we're seeing at 70 is just across the institutions, there's less kids in all of them. Greenhill got cut 13, Echo, I don't know, that's 15 or something, and they shut down the boot camp. So I don't think it's an attempt to, I know that I wondered at first too, it's like, what the heck? And the more I've looked into it, I really think it's just a reflection of system-wide, there's less kids, and we took a smaller percentage cut than the others, so at some point you can't really cry foul, you just have to deal with it. I think that's where we're at.
Well, because of JRA though, there's, McCleary Act affects the camp differently than say the public school, correct? Because we're educating kids because they're there, because of JRA.
Right.
Correct? And so how does, it affects it completely differently, right?
The legislators are pretty undialed into camp. The way they handle student testing, the way they handle funding, they are pretty much clueless. This is on tape. Yeah. There's a real lack of understanding. I'm on record twice. But anyway, yeah, there's a real lack of understanding.
Well, I appreciate your knowledge of this, and it is alarming because the numbers are steadily dropping over the past, 10, 12 years for sure. Thank you.
Well, Karen is at the science fair guarding the young kids from the snakes. So I will do a quick report. If you haven't heard, the elementary program received the Achievement Award again this year for high progress. There's different categories that you can get the award in. There's a long, convoluted explanation, but it's based on a 3-year model, so 3 years of test scores measuring progress and achievement in reading and math. And so it's, you know, a longitudinal representation of student progress. And there's kind of some explanation below. Like I said, it's based on 2 components, and they look at a 3-year window. And you have to be sure that you're testing the kids, or, you know, makes you ineligible because it's a test scores they use to drive the award. But that's pretty awesome. That's at least 2 years in a row. I know they've earned it before, but for sure for 2014 and 2015. That's a nice activity. Yes, ma'am.
What grades is that? Is that all K through what?
Well, it starts at 3rd when they do the state testing,
Okay.
but it's over time. So if you see down there, it's almost the last sentence. So it'd be like kids moving from 11 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14. So it does span, there's kind of a chart that explains it. But it's the overlapping of grades. It's mostly 3rd and up. 3rd through 5th. If you go to OSBI, it'll give you kind of all the mean, median, numerical breakdowns of it. We're just going to take their word for it and say, cool. Let me see.
County superintendent.
So we begin the month of April at just short of 800,000. It's at the very top here. Beginning of April, which is obviously where we end in March. Just kind of as a reminder, moving through, we'll receive funding amounts now based on actual through June. Then in July and August, it's an average of what we've had over the whole school year. Those are our highest paid months because for each of those months, we get 10% of the funding part. So, should end the year in a strong financial position.
10B, transportation bus inspection award following spring of 2013-14.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not there yet. I got a couple other things here. Yep. Enrollment, holding steady. You can see the 400 line there. This is probably the steadiest, that's it, most steady year we've had enrollment-wise. It really hasn't varied very much as a whole. We've been hovering right around very close to 400. That's district-wide, that's each campus, CBAs, and K-12. Very minimal movement.
What was our budget amount?
We budgeted at 260 for the K-12, 35 for the CBA, and 76 for the camp. Okay, a couple of things we have scheduled, a board workshop to determine.
Just occurred to me that on the CBA now, usually about this time of year, the numbers start dropping, but because we're K-5, it probably won't.
It's been very steady, and Brianna is in charge of our CBA enrollment. And yes, we found that there's very little fluctuation in the K-5.
Right.
We've hovered around at 48 FTE all year long. Well, I guess besides September, you know, when they start populating them in, but, you know, really hasn't dropped off. And they've closed out their window. They're not taking any more kids right now, obviously, but there's been virtually no fluctuation there at all.
Yeah, so in years past, we've dropped,
We've really bounced
From-
around a bunch.
April, May, June.
Haven't seen it yet. We're coming right up on the end here. Okay, so May 4th, we have scheduled a board workshop to determine a superintendent job description and look at a new evaluation tool. I had one request to move that to earlier. I don't know if that fits into anyone's schedule. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to see if we want to move that to maybe 10 or 10:30 or keep the 1:30, which we originally talked about.
I'm completely open, so whatever works.
I'm open to.
That works for me.
Okay.
So,
I was saying whatever's okay with me, but
If I had my phone, I'd call my wife to find
is it
out.
after?
That'd be smart.
So,
That's the truth, right? Really.
10 o'clock,
working that day.
Yeah.
you want to go with 10 then?
I'm fine with that.
Okay?
That's everything else.
Well, I'll send out a reminder.
Yeah, please.
The next part of this, we are coming up on the time to set the next goals. And procedure, 1630 right now, would say that we need to do that in June because it talks about actually acknowledging that those goals in July. So we did use Patty Wood before for a kind of a board workshop. We wanted to talk about whether we want to do that again. I have contacted her, and she is available. The 27th is a Saturday, but originally we kind of went for Saturdays and it gave us some extended time. She is also available June 2nd, and I think that's a Monday or Tuesday, I'm not sure off the top of my head, or any day after the 21st. So I would just need to get back with her and try to confirm something. If we do want to do that, we could also handle it in-house. We've had a successful parent in the past. So that would be my recommendation. I just wanted to check with the board on any of those dates. Maybe what their calendars or not.
So have you talked to Patty about what she thinks the duration of it, how long it will take?
No, I mean, she usually recommends a day, which is going to,
A full day?
come down, but,
Okay,
she's,
so you're looking at a full
she's
day on,
flexible.
like on the 2nd, it's a Tuesday?
I mean, if it doesn't take that long, I'm sure,
Yeah. Okay.
I could get back to her with more, it, kind of depends if we're gonna use her, then kind of narrow it down and see, what her availability is. I think last time she came for probably most of the day. Yeah, it's really, that was it's really bad. Thoughts, comments, suggestions?
When was that works best for me?
21st is out for me, sorry. I won't be back from California. I'm close.
Close, no?
The 27th, you said is a
That,
Saturday?
I'm pretty sure that was a Saturday.
Yeah, it is.
Which day? Sorry.
27th.
27th, Saturday.
Was that originally, I think, tried to do a Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
That would work for me.
I think that's, yeah, that seems good for me.
11th, Steve?
27th of June we're talking about?
Yeah.
At this time, I don't see any problems with
Steve, you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yep.
And time to be determined, is that correct?
Yeah, I will be back with her and tell her yes. we want to do it. That was her preferred date, and then I said, well, I don't know, are there any other dates if, just in case. But I think that's the date she would prefer. She has a foreign exchange student and graduation, and so the person will be gone after the 21st. Okay, so I will get back with her. And science fair, if you get a chance, I think it started at 7 or 7:30 is going on right now. It's all over here. Some nice snakes and everything. For those that want to look at those. No, I'm kind of glad I have more looking. I want to invite the board to the senior class, senior project presentations. Those will be in Hickman's class. They are May 13th and 14th, and they're at 8:18 to 9:08. If you do decide to come, if you could just let me know, so make sure we have enough desks and materials and score sheets and,
Is it 14th or 24th?
well, it's only 13 and 14. I could have written it down wrong. Parents out there, know otherwise? I think it's the 13, 14. Oh, I'll verify.
13, 14?
Well, I believe it's the 13 to 14 is what he said.
Oh.
I will double check this.
My apologies. He usually only did like 2 a day. That's why I thought it was, but maybe he's doing it differently.
Well, it kind of took me by surprise.
So you're probably
I'm
right.
gonna double check.
Sorry.
No, that's good, because I think we had an issue there, I don't know. Our annual report, we haven't sent one out in this variety in quite a while. That'll probably go out late this week, so we'll be looking for that. I'm excited about it. Should be turn out very nice. It's just a busy, crazy time of year. There's a whole bunch of things going on. We have spring concerts, we have Evening of Excellence. Many things are on our webpage, and they change almost daily, especially the athletic events. So if you just want to kind of keep up on those, check out our webpage on our website. Graduation big day coming up, June 6th, it's at 4 o'clock. So we're looking forward to that. I did receive a public records request from Guy Glenn's office out of Long Beach, and it was on our bus loading and unloading procedures, bus ridership rules, student bus rules, and the student handbook. I have no clue what that's about. Gave him everything I had, and haven't heard another word. I'm not saying I won't, but at this point, we've complied with the request, and I have no clue. And finally, I do want to recognize that this would belong to both Carl, our youth director of transportation, and Ed. We've had two inspections since, well, kind of during the handoff. One was last spring when Ed was finishing out and Carl was joining us. And then we had another surprise inspection in November, and we received a certificate the other day for outstanding inspections on both of those. And the second one, a lot of those are surprises. They don't tell you. They just show up, inspect the buses, and do their thing. So we've had a pretty long history of good inspections. So we're really proud of that department. And Carl got to do his first one by himself. Very good results.
Lisa, I think it was a month ago or maybe two, we talked about doors for the bus barn. Is there any development?
Well, our facilities committee gets back together on Monday, the 4th or 3rd, next Monday, so I'm hoping to bring some kind of movement on that.
Okay.
I guess I got redundant. Oh, and I was going to report out that we received a letter, but we already talked about that earlier. So. And is it for me?
Okay. Item 11, board member reports, future agenda items. I have two things. Okay. We received that letter regarding funding for the Mandarin program, and I believe in accordance with our policy regarding gifts, the board has to approve that. The policy doesn't really define very well what a gift is, but if that's a gift, then we need to approve. And we could probably do that, put that on the agenda for the school meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what else you would call it. Sure.
Gifts of over $100 value require the approval. And the other thing, this is a thought I had, and I'm just going to throw it out and see what you guys think of it. What would you think about asking for an advisory vote in the fall election to continue the Mandarin program?
What's an advisory vote? Definition.
Well, you know, I searched through RCWs and I don't find one. Typically, it's used for increased taxes, but I have seen it used for other reasons. And it's non-binding. It would be non-binding to us. It would just be asking the community, what do you think about this? Should we do it or should we not?
Yeah, I mean, because of the cost of the program, I think we need to buy into the community to continue. In my opinion, so I think that's a great idea, if we can do it, but I thought I heard Lisa, was the discussion last time that we could not put anything on the ballot because we already had a M&O in place?
Well, you can't go out and put another M&O, a monetary, we couldn't go out and run a Mandarin M&O now, or a STEM M&O, or some other kind of program, because we have an M&O in place. You can come out with other money collections, for example, we could do capital projects, but you can't have two M&Os going simultaneously. But if I understand what Chuck's saying, it's an advisory vote, so it's not actually taking action on a monetary item, it's kind of like an opinion survey. I know Tudor Lake ran an advisory vote not too long ago before they went out for their actual bond. It said, should the Tudor Lake School District put a bond measure in place of whatever $1 million for, and then it listed whatever it was, track renovations, new roof, carpet, you know. And then that was just a yes, no. It wasn't actually saying we're voting for it, should we even go there type of a question, basically.
No, I like if we can do that, if the mechanism is there, it says the community's going to support, that's what we need.
I just kind of wonder how, like, the phrasing of it would be obviously very critical, and is it just a simple, yes, I support it, or no, I don't, or, I don't know how many, like, little boxes you can have. I don't know if you can have, like, a multiple choice, or, honestly, or if it's just a yes, no. So, I think if we do that, we're going to need a workshop to, decide what will the language read on the yes, no, or, maybe you can have 4 choices. I think,
Well, that's what we can check out with the county.
yeah.
And the other thing to check out would be what's it going to cost us.
Shouldn't cost a lot this time. If we did it in November, there's going to be a lot on the election.
I saw that one of our items was like a $7,000
Yeah.
election to Waikaton. Was that just to have the maintenance on the ballot? I was surprised by the amount just for
I know.
Waikaton.
Yeah, I don't know if they had a rate increase or what, but that was a lot.
Because somehow I was thinking we were in the $4,000 range, and when I saw that, I thought, man, that's crazy.
$6-7 grand is typical.
Is it?
Yes, per
Yeah.
Per county?
county. It was, I think, almost 15,000 for that. Now, we were the only item on, there would be tons of items in the general election in November. The other thing too is, if my memory serves me correctly, you have to have the board resolution approved and all the paperwork delivered to the county. I think it actually is 46 days, I don't know why I don't know that. 46 days before the vote. So if it's November 2nd or 3rd or 4th, whatever day Tuesday is, 46 days prior to that, we would have had to have met, approved everything, passed a board resolution, and have it delivered to the county. So,
So you're saying we're on the timeline here for an advisory? Is that-
we'd have to, get to work on it pretty quickly.
Probably by the end of the summer, we should have it done.
In the summer?
That's what I would say. I think to get up there and have a flat tire on the way, miss the deadline now. Or construction. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. That's my motto.
Well, I agree with Bud. I think this is a piece that has been missing for as long as this program's been around. No one's ever reached out to the electorate.
And I hear from people, but I don't hear from enough.
Right. And it would certainly be a way of finding out, what the pulse is. I would definitely want to encourage the board to go down that path.
Well, I would agree. I mean, since, at some point, we're going to need to do something about our facilities. It's always kind of a shock when you actually put that out to a vote, and it doesn't exactly turn out the way you hope. Because of a an issue that you don't think is as big as it really is, possibly. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I wish that it would have been available sooner. I guess it would have been
If somebody would love.
if we had known about it. Yeah. You learn something every day, right?
I could find out what I can and bring something back at the May meeting.
Okay, anything else?
I noticed on the election calendar that they really moved up the candidate filing date. You know, when I filed 2 years ago, it was in July. Last year it was in June, and this year it's actually in May. I would really encourage both of you to refile. We need your leadership. I'm hoping you both do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, I was kind of shocked too at the date. I don't remember it ever being that early. So I'm glad that you sent us that email. At least I would have missed it.
Oh, I saw something on the law that day, and I'm like, that's gotta be old.
Need to have a flat tire and miss it, right?
I think you can do it online, and
Hey, just throw it back at you there, Earl.
might not even need to go.
Yeah.
But I think you want to double check, but if I recall, I believe even if you live in Wahkiakum County, you still
Yeah.
sign up or whatever.
Yeah, you either have to go to South Bend, or I understand you can actually do it online, is that correct?
So you can't file it?
Yeah, I did.
I don't think so.
I'm not saying you can't, but yeah.
I don't think you can. I think you have to go to,
Well, I've got other business in the courthouse tomorrow, so I can ask.
yeah, okay.
I'm just
I'm
not
actually
when
gonna
we
be there
did.
at 6:30. I don't know if anybody will be there yet. but-
Nobody in the office is.
When we did our M&O levy, I would deal with Wahkiakum one iota. Pacific, does everything. Still got a bill, mind you, but. I haven't figured out one
Hey,
yet.
we're just little, we need money.
I know.
Okay, anything else? In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.